When Corey Haim first revealed the story of the horrific treatment he suffered as a child star, many believed he was talking about Charlie Sheen. Ultimately, even more information came out after his untimely death, and the truth was much darker than anybody knew. Corey Haim could be a poster boy for child actors who failed to launch as adults. It was addiction that got him in the end. Join me in exploring the story of Corey Haim. Growing up, Corey's mother noticed something worrisome about her son. For a reserved teenager, the spotlight was not a place he wanted to be. However, his mother thought that thrusting him onto a stage would cure his shyness. She signed him up for improv classes and even mime lessons. Unlike Corey, his older sister Carrie did want to act. It soon became his job to go with her to auditions. While Carrie was met mostly with rejection, Corey got the opposite reaction. Even though he wasn't auditioning, producers wanted him. First, he did some commercials, and then he got his first role on a Canadian educational TV show called The Edison Twins. It wouldn't be long before he made the massive leap to Hollywood. In 1984, when he was 13, he won a role in a movie, a thriller called Firstborn. In it, Corey plays the son of a woman who begins seeing a not-so-nice guy named Sam, played by Peter Weller. On his first day on set, Corey made the mistake of trying to compliment Peter Weller on his acting. Weller, who played the boy's violent stepfather, grabbed the barely teenage Corey, threw him against a wall, and demanded that he never speak to him again on set. Weller later blamed his behavior on his method acting. Even though his parents divorced in 1982, Corey was still hurting. At a crew party for the movie, he watched as his parents danced, but not with each other. On seeing his parents with other partners, he burst into tears. After a few smaller roles, Corey's career gained momentum. In 1985, he landed a lead role in Silver Bullet and won a Young Artist Award for his performance in the TV movie A Time to Live alongside Liza Minnelli. Through a Hollywood agent, someone who quickly helped Corey secure another role in the 1986 movie Lucas, where he played the main character. But behind the scenes, trouble was brewing. Years later, Corey's close friend and fellow 80s star Corey Feldman revealed shocking allegations. Feldman claimed that during the filming of Lucas, Charlie Sheen, one of Corey's co-stars, sexually assaulted him. A revelation that added another tragic layer to Corey Haim's already devastating story. Charlie Sheen firmly denied the allegations against him, but an unexpected ally emerged to defend him, Corey Haim's sister, Carrie. She reportedly claimed that Sheen couldn't have been involved with her brother because he was too preoccupied with her at the time. With her statement, the accusations seemed to fade into the background. However, in 2017, Sheen faced new allegations of assaulting Corey Haim during the filming of Lucas. This time, the claim came from actor Dominic Braccia, who had worked with Corey on The Lost Boys and had become his friend. Corey's mother, Judy, eventually stepped forward to address the situation. She asserted that nothing could happen on the Lucas set without her knowing about it. Surprisingly, she turned the tables by accusing Dominic Braccia of being the one who had abused her son. This statement sparked speculation, with some suggesting that Sheen may have influenced her to make such claims. Regardless of the truth behind what happened during the filming of Lucas, one thing was certain. Corey's performance in the movie had captured attention. His rising fame prompted him to leave Canada and move to Los Angeles to pursue his career. Not long after, director Joel Schumacher began casting for his vampire movie, The Lost Boys. Corey landed a role in the film where he met another young actor who would profoundly impact his life, Corey Feldman. While most of their castmates were old enough to party, the two Coreys bonded over quiet nights watching movies together. Their friendship quickly blossomed. The Lost Boys became a hit, earning its place as a cult classic and marking the beginning of a successful on-screen partnership between Corey and Feldman. Fans started referring to them as the two Coreys, and it seemed like Corey Haim had found both a close friend and a reliable collaborator. But as with many Hollywood stories, things didn't stay perfect for long. Trouble was brewing beneath the surface. During the filming of their second movie together, License to Drive, director Greg Beeman described the Coreys as playful teens who occasionally disappeared from the set. Despite their antics, he noted that they always arrived on time and ready to work. On the surface, it seemed like harmless teenage fun. But behind the scenes, Corey Haim was battling darker issues. One notable challenge during the production of License to Drive was that Corey Haim needed to drive a car for the movie, but he only had a learner's permit. To comply with legal requirements, the producers had an adult hidden in the back seat whenever he drove. However, there was another, more troubling reason why Corey wasn't fit to be behind the wheel. He later revealed that by this time, he was already struggling with addiction. During a stint in rehab, doctors had prescribed him medication to manage withdrawal symptoms, which inadvertently fueled a deeper dependency. This marked the beginning of a long and difficult battle with addiction that would overshadow much of his career. Valium quickly became a massive issue for the young actor, as his dependency spiraled out of control. At one point, he was reportedly taking up to 85 pills a day. Fans began noticing his struggles with addiction, and this took a toll on his career. His movies started flopping and audiences lost interest. With his popularity dwindling, Corey Haim shifted to making direct-to-video films. In one of these projects, he starred alongside his then-girlfriend, Nicole Eggert, best known for her role on Baywatch. While their days were spent on set, their nights were often spent in the emergency room, dealing with the fallout from Corey's addiction. Although the two eventually got engaged, their relationship didn't last, and they broke things off before walking down the aisle. Despite his personal struggles, Corey still had some money left and decided it was time to upgrade his living situation. He purchased a mansion in LA's upscale Hancock Park neighborhood, but for reasons that baffled many, he bought the property with his manager, Michael Bass. This decision turned out to be a disaster. Bass, who had previously served 2 years in prison for fraud, hadn't exactly turned over a new leaf. He rushed the purchase of the house under the guise of hosting a charity event for Toys for Tots. But insiders claimed the event was nothing more than a scam. This was just the beginning of the problems. About a year later, Corey tried to fire Bass, but the manager refused to leave. Tensions escalated, and Corey ended up shooting at Bass with a BB gun. His close friend Corey Feldman stepped in to bail him out, paying $250 to secure his release. Not long after, Corey and Feldman were drawn into another controversial chapter. In the midst of Michael Jackson's legal troubles, Feldman publicly defended the pop star. After settling his case out of court, Jackson invited Feldman and Corey to visit his Neverland Ranch as a thank you. This marked the beginning of Corey's connection to Jackson, a friendship that would raise eyebrows in the years to come. Around this time, Corey and Feldman were churning out a string of forgettable, straight-to-video films. Hoping to revive his career, Corey auditioned for the role of Robin in Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever. He likely thought Schumacher, who had worked with him on The Lost Boys, might give him a break. Unfortunately, the role went to Chris O'Donnell, leaving Corey disappointed once again. His erratic behavior and ongoing addiction made it hard for even his old connections to help him. Still reeling from the Batman Forever rejection, Corey agreed to star in Feldman's directorial debut, Busted. However, his addiction worsened during production. While the film was a low-budget comedy, Feldman took the project seriously and couldn't tolerate Corey's unreliability. Corey frequently missed work or showed up under the influence, forcing Feldman to make the difficult decision to fire his longtime friend. By 1996, Corey was preparing to star in Paradise Bar, but his addiction created yet another setback. When filling out his insurance paperwork, he hesitated over a question about pre-existing medical conditions. Addiction was listed, but he chose not to disclose it. This decision came back to haunt him. Once the producers discovered his struggles, they reviewed his insurance form and involved Lloyd's of London, who sued him for $375,000. This lawsuit only added to Corey's growing financial troubles. He already owed $100,000 to the IRS and another $100,000 to various creditors. His assets were pitiful: a mere $100 in cash, an Alfa Romeo Spider, some clothes, and a small pension fund. On top of everything, his addiction left him virtually unemployable, making it nearly impossible for him to dig himself out of debt. In July 1997, Corey Haim found himself in a desperate situation and decided to file for bankruptcy. To escape his financial troubles, he returned to Canada, where he worked on a film called Without Malice, shot in a remote part of Saskatchewan. The small town had just one bar, and locals noted that Corey was a frequent visitor, often staying until closing time. On set, his behavior raised eyebrows. He would repeatedly halt production to call home and check on his dog, which left many questioning his stability. By 2001, Corey had reached his lowest point, a struggle documented on True Hollywood Story. The show revealed him living in a modest Santa Monica apartment with his mother. A local pawn shop owner recalled Corey pleading for just $3 to buy a slice of pizza, showing how dire his situation had become. In 2003, he appeared in David Spade's comedy Dickie Roberts, former child star. Although fictional, the movie featured real former child stars, including Corey and Corey Feldman, as well as actors from classic shows like The Brady Bunch. For Corey, it was a small gig that provided some much-needed cash, even though his acting career was largely stagnant. In 2006, VH1 ranked Corey 8th on their list of the greatest teen stars, which sparked an idea for him. Why not create a reality show? This led to The Two Coreys, a series where he lived with Feldman and his wife while trying to rebuild his career. However, viewers were stunned by Corey's appearance, as his struggles with addiction had taken a visible toll. The show also revealed painful truths. In one episode, Corey disclosed that he had been sexually abused at 14 by a man who was a friend of Feldman's. Feldman admitted he had known about the abuse, which lasted 2 years. This revelation strained their friendship, and the pair briefly paused production. Despite winning a Canadian Gemini Award for the show, Corey's financial woes persisted. In desperation, he resorted to selling unusual items, including NFTs of his hair and even a tooth. Corey's money problems worsened, but he became optimistic when he heard about a sequel to The Lost Boys. As an original cast member, he assumed he'd automatically be included, only to learn there wasn't a role for him. The producers offered him a cameo, but when he arrived on set under the influence, they sent him home. This rejection was a turning point for Corey, prompting him to commit to turning his life around. Remarkably, Corey managed to revive his acting career. At the time the third Lost Boys film was in development, he declined to participate as he was already committed to other projects such as Shark City, Crank, High Voltage, American Sunset, and Decisions. Determined to stay clean, he even requested drug-free sets. For a while, it seemed like Corey was finally back on track. In early 2010, Corey Haim started feeling unwell, complaining of flu-like symptoms. A doctor who visited him at home dismissed it as nothing serious. But just a few days later, Corey collapsed after getting out of bed. His mother found him unconscious and immediately called for help. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital, but tragically, in the early hours of the next day, 38-year-old Corey Haim was pronounced dead. Initially, doctors suspected an overdose, as Corey had reportedly used fake names to obtain prescription medications. While many assumed drugs were to blame, the official cause of death was later determined to be pneumonia and lung damage. Adding to the heartbreak, Corey's mother couldn't afford to pay for his funeral. Thankfully, the city of Toronto had a fund to assist in cases like this, and a memorabilia site where Corey had sold personal items stepped in to help. In the end, the funeral home itself covered the costs, ensuring Corey could be laid to rest. Yet, even after the funeral, one question loomed large. What really happened to Corey Haim? A decade after his death, Corey Feldman released a documentary exploring the lives of both Coreys. In it, Feldman alleged that several men had abused one or both of them during their childhood. He also claimed there was a group, which he referred to as the Wolf Pack, working to discredit victims like him. While some dismissed Feldman's claims as far-fetched, others believed there was a dark truth behind the tragic lives of the two actors. Feldman spoke about his visits to Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch with Corey, saying they mostly spent time riding go-karts and watching movies. However, years later, a more disturbing story surfaced. Ed Meyer, a producer of the two Coreys, claimed to have a recording of Corey alleging that Jackson had inappropriately touched him after their first meeting. Following this revelation, Feldman stopped defending the late pop star. He remains firm in his belief that both he and Corey were victims of powerful predators in Hollywood, and insists there's a deliberate effort to keep the truth buried. Feldman's concerns aren't entirely unfounded. The same year Corey passed away, the Academy Awards left his name out of the in memoriam segment, almost as if Hollywood had already begun erasing him from memory. The story of Corey Haim is a tragic reminder of the dark side of fame. And if you enjoyed today's story, please like and subscribe. See you again. Welcome to our channel. Today, we will learn about the life of Anjelica Huston, an American actress, director, and former model. Anjelica's father, John Huston, was famous for his numerous affairs, but one incident went too far. He began an affair with Anjelica's friend Zoe Salas, and Anjelica found out in a particularly painful way. Born to the famous director John Huston and ballerina Enrica Soma, Anjelica grew up privileged, but her childhood experiences were far from idyllic. When she was born, her father was in Uganda filming, and it took 3 days for the news of her birth to reach him, after which he showed little interest. This emotional distance became a characteristic of her family relationships. Within a year of Anjelica's birth, her father dealt a devastating blow to her mother by not only refusing to give her a role in his production of Moulin Rouge, but also by having an affair with the actress he had chosen. He often neglected his family, spending months away from home and engaging in various relationships over the years. In 1960, Anjelica's mother moved her and her brother Tony from Ireland to London. While her father had many girlfriends, from actresses to celebrities, Anjelica's mother had an affair with a married man, which resulted in the birth of Anjelica's half-sister, Allegra, in 1964. Anjelica cherished her relationship with Allegra, but life challenged that bond in unexpected ways. While Anjelica was still in school, an unexpected opportunity presented itself. Franco Zeffirelli was adapting Romeo and Juliet, and producers were looking for their Juliet at her school. Although she wanted to audition, her father had other plans. He insisted that her career begin with one of his films, specifically 1969's A Walk with Love and Death. The decision turned out to be a mistake. Acting with her father was a miserable experience, and critics did not appreciate her performance. During high school, she often skipped classes to spend time with boys, while her mother was preoccupied with mourning the broken relationship that led to Allegra's birth. One night, a friend of Anjelica's mother woke her up with heartbreaking news her mother had died in a car accident in France at the age of 39. This tragedy changed Anjelica's life forever. She moved to New York and started a new chapter. Harper's Bazaar wanted to photograph her before the release of her film with her father. They paired her with Bob Richardson, a sought-after yet unpredictable and controversial photographer. He quickly drew her into his world, assuring her that he was separating from his wife and that they were destined to be together. Little did she know that she was walking into a situation far beyond her understanding. Although she had lost her mother's unconditional love, Richardson cared for her, making her feel safe again. Their age gap mirrored that of her parents. He was 42, and she was 18 when they met. Richardson struggled with drug addiction, had spent time in a mental hospital, and his previous marriage ended. Although her first film received poor reviews, Anjelica was recognized as a model and actress. It was during this time that problems began to emerge in her relationship with Richardson. After she briefly left to appear on The Tonight Show, Richardson ransacked their hotel room, destroying her belongings because she had not unpacked her suitcase. Angelica's father insists that she and Richardson accompany him on a fishing trip to Mexico with his new fiancée, Cece. One night, after Angelica returns from drinking with her father, Richardson throws a bottle at her head in a fit of rage. This becomes the breaking point for her. When they return to Los Angeles, Angelica tells Richardson that their relationship is over. After 3 years of living in fear of him, Angelica seeks refuge at Cece's house in Pacific Palisades. There, she rides horses, enjoys nature, and tries to escape Cece's clumsy attempts at matchmaking. Things change when she receives an invitation to a party hosted by a famous young actor, Jack Nicholson. Fresh from their breakup, Angelica and Jack begin dating, but their relationship faces many challenges. Both are busy with their careers. Angelica's modeling career is taking off, and Jack is on a movie set, which means they have to spend some time apart. Shortly after their breakup, Angelica learns that one of her friends slept with Jack just hours after she left him at the airport. Jack tries to talk his way out of the situation, but it spells trouble for their relationship. From that point on, whenever Angelica suspects Jack of cheating, she finds evidence to confirm her fears. Even though he isn't very careful about his love life, she chooses to ignore it. Angelica wants to pursue acting again, but after the failure of her first movie, she is reluctant. She doesn't want to rely on nepotism, even though her father is a legend and she is dating a big Hollywood star. In 1976, while Jack is away on business in New York, Angelica attends a party where she meets troubled actor Ryan O'Neal. When Jack returns a few days later, Angelica shocks him by telling him that she loves O'Neal and is leaving him. She decides to pursue a film acting career, hoping to secure a role in The Last Tycoon. However, director Elia Kazan harshly rejects her, saying that she is not attractive enough for the lead role she wants, but that he would consider her for another character, a rejected date. She is still cast in the film, sharing the screen with her ex-boyfriend, Jack Nicholson. Soon after, she also begins dating Ryan O'Neal. He is physically abusive, and things get worse one night when he headbutts her at a party after losing track of her. In fear, Angelica runs upstairs to the bathroom, but O'Neal follows her and continues to assault her. Lacking support, she receives surprising advice from her 13-year-old half-sister Allegra, who simply tells her, "Leave him." After the disappointment of The Last Tycoon, Angelica takes a 5-year break from acting. However, when her friend Bob Rafelson offers her a role in The Postman Always Rings Twice, starring Jack Nicholson, she eagerly accepts. It also gives her the opportunity to see Jack perform alongside rising star Jessica Lange. Although she feels uncomfortable accepting a role through her connections, she quickly moves on. Shortly after filming, she is in a serious car accident. Not wearing a seatbelt, she is thrown through the windshield, requiring surgery on her nose and face. Although the accident is serious, it has an unexpected benefit. It makes her realize that she has spent too much time waiting for opportunities and needs to change that way of thinking. For the first 30 years of her life, Angelica Huston has been looking for first love to blossom within her family. But now she craves independence. She wants to pursue an acting career on her own, not depending on her father or their friends to get roles. She follows her passion, takes lessons, and slowly builds a career, although her roles are small and her films are not big hits. Then a friend introduces her to a book he wants to adapt, believing she would be perfect for the lead role. She is excited about the opportunity. However, there is one thing worth noting: the book is titled PR's Honor, and her friend not only wants Angelica Huston to play the female lead, but also wants Jack Nicholson to play the male lead and for her father to direct the film. She initially refused to participate, but eventually agreed. Unfortunately, she was met with a major insult. When she asked for a higher salary than usual, her agent contacted the producer, who replied that she had no talent and that the only reason they were talking was that her boyfriend was a star and her father was a director. The old Angelica Huston must have been hurt by these insults and backed out. But the new Angelica was determined to prove him wrong. And she did. Of the 8 Oscar nominations, she was the only one to win. After her acceptance speech, she rushed off stage to her father instead of going to the press room. Her proud father, John Huston, was in tears as she rushed to thank him. For the first time, Angelica was truly enjoying her success. In the 1980s, John Huston began working on a film called The Dead, intending to involve the entire family. Angelica's brother Tony secretly wrote the script. However, as their father's health declined and he needed oxygen tanks everywhere, both the producers and the Huston family worked tirelessly to make the film. The stress of working on the production and watching her father direct while in poor health took a toll on Angelica's health, causing her to develop Epstein-Barr syndrome. Shortly after completing The Dead, John Huston's health worsened, and he was hospitalized. Angelica visited him every day. One evening she said goodbye to him and promised to return the next day. Tragically, he passed away before she could see him again at the age of 81. Although they had been separated since childhood, he had become an integral part of her life, and Angelica was devastated by his loss. Meanwhile, she and Jack Nicholson drifted apart throughout the 1980s, and by 1990, they decided to end their relationship. After their breakup, Angelica attended the Cannes Film Festival as a judge. Shortly after arriving, she caught the attention of Prince Albert of Monaco. Although they dated briefly, he was not the one to bring Angelica happiness. A friend of hers wanted to introduce her to a sculptor named Robert Graham. Angelica and Robert began dating and fell in love. This newfound happiness coincided with career success when producers approached her for the role she had dreamed of for most of her life: Morticia Addams. As a child, Angelica loved reading the Addams Family comics and dreamed of playing Morticia. However, the reality of portraying Morticia Addams was much less glamorous. The makeup artist attached pieces of fabric to her face and taped them to the back of her head, causing her to strain and resulting in severe headaches and rashes. Despite these challenges, her dedication paid off, and the Addams Family became a huge success and a beloved family classic, thanks in part to her memorable performance. During a trip to her childhood home in Ireland, Angelica's partner, Robert Graham, surprised her by proposing to her on one of their last days there. They married in 1992, and Angelica was overjoyed to have found lasting love. However, she realized that there was one important aspect missing. She had never considered having children, especially after her tumultuous relationships. After her split from Jack Nicholson, Angelica searched for answers about her difficulties in getting pregnant and learned that she had endometriosis, a condition that made it difficult for her to conceive. This revelation left her feeling helpless and frustrated. After marrying Robert Graham, they tried infertility treatments, but unfortunately, none of them were successful. Angelica achieved considerable career success in the 1990s. She starred in several films, a television miniseries, and even began directing. She became the confident actress she had admired throughout her life. In the critically acclaimed film The Royal Tenenbaums, she worked with a stellar cast, but the filming environment was notoriously problematic. Angelica later shared her unpleasant experiences on set, revealing that veteran actor Gene Hackman was often harsh and abusive toward the young director Wes Anderson. Angelica admitted that the situation escalated to the point where she and Bill Murray felt compelled to intervene to defend Anderson. You might expect this to bring them closer together, but it didn't. When Murray and Angelica worked together again on Wes Anderson's The Life Aquatic, Murray was reportedly rude to her. During the first week of filming, he invited the entire cast to dinner but did not invite Angelica. She also faced challenges with another powerful figure in Hollywood, Oprah Winfrey. After Angelica won her first Oscar for her role in The Color Purple, which was Oprah's rival film, she claimed that Oprah began avoiding her. Angelica Huston eventually found happiness with sculptor Robert Graham. Unfortunately, like many of her previous relationships, this one was marred by tragedy. In 2007, Robert became ill and died 6 months later, leaving Angelica a widow. His death had a profound impact on her. Although she has not pursued a romantic relationship since then, she has found solace in starring in the television show Smash and writing 2 memoirs, one of which details her love story with Robert and explores her challenging childhood. Although Angelica Huston eventually made peace with her father, there was one incident from her childhood that she could never forget and took a long time to forgive. John Huston, known for his many affairs, regularly cheated on Angelica's mother. However, he crossed a significant line when he began an affair with Angelica's teenage friend, Zoe Salas. When John revealed the affair to Angelica, he did so in a harsh manner, informing her that she now had a half-brother. This child, actor Danny Huston, eventually became a beloved member of the Huston family, but it took years for Angelica to accept him and Zoe Salas. We hope you enjoyed our exploration of the life of Angelica Huston. That's it for this episode. Thank you for joining us.